Fourth graders, it's Mrs. Smith here with your lesson for today. Today's lesson is Subtract Mixed Numbers. It is lesson 7 in this chapter, and I am on page 599. If you haven't had a chance to watch Mr. Tillish's video on adding mixed numbers, I suggest that you watch that one first. If you've already watched that video, then you are in the right place. So we're just going to jump right into this and start with example number 1. Now, this problem reads, Olivia had 4 3/4 boxes of games. She gave 1 1/4 of the boxes to her brother. How many boxes of games does she have left? And you'll notice that I did cubes on this problem as I read through it. And so I have circled my two fractions. I underlined my question. I boxed my keyword. And now I can eliminate the extra information. Okay, so, come on, there we go. So now I have my two numbers circled, and now looking at my keywords, gave and left. When I know I'm being asked how many does someone have left, that's a subtraction question. So I know that I'm doing 4 3/4 minus 1 1/4. And just like in subtraction that you've been doing since kindergarten, the big number comes first, right? She had this much at the beginning. She gave this much away. And so now I'm trying to figure out how much she has left. Now, I have written on a separate piece of paper something very similar to what is right here. This in your book shows you one way that you can write each mixed number as an equivalent improper fraction. This is the first step in completing a subtraction for mixed numbers question. You're going to need to rewrite these fractions that are mixed numbers as improper fractions. Now, you might remember from previous lessons, an improper fraction is a fraction whose numerator is larger than their denominator. An example of that could be 6/4, right? My numerator is larger than my denominator. Another example is 11/8. Another example, 124. Right? Any of these are examples of improper fractions because the numerator is greater than the denominator. Okay, so again, my first step is to write each mixed number, so 4 3/4 and 1 1/4 as an equivalent improper fraction. So my book shows me one way, and I have that same strategy written down right here. Okay, so write each number as an improper fraction. So one way I can do that is by taking the whole in my mixed number and rewriting each of these wholes as fractions. So I have 4 wholes in this mixed number. So how do I write this as a fraction? Well, I have 4 of them, so one would be 4/4. My second one would be another 4/4, another 4/4, and another 4/4, because I know 4/4 is equivalent to 1. So I have really 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 to make this 4 here. So I've done this 4, and now I need to add in my 3/4. Okay, you remember from our previous lessons about adding like fractions that when I add these up, I'm only adding the numerators and leaving the denominator the same. So my denominator is going to stay 4, and now I'm doing 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 4 3/4 is equivalent to 19/4. This is my improper fraction. Okay, now I need to do the same thing for 1 1/4. 1 as a fraction is 4/4. fourths. And the reason that I'm choosing fourths here is because my fraction part of this mixed number is in fourths. If this had been sixths, then I would do 6 sixths. I hope that makes sense. So here's my 1 as 4 fourths, and I need to add my fraction, 1/4. And just like we did above, my denominator is going to stay the same. I'm going to add across my numerators. 4 plus 1 is 5. And so 1 and 1/4 as an improper fraction is 5/4. Okay, so this is one way that you can write each mixed number as an improper fraction. So you can see that here. They did the same steps we did over here. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 is 19 fourths. And then 4 plus 1 is 5 fourths. Okay, and then my next step would be to subtract them. I can subtract this and subtract this, right? So 19 minus 5, I'm going to subtract straight across, is 14. Okay, and then my denominator stays the same. Okay, and then my next step is to simplify. So 14 fourths is equivalent to 3 2/4, right? And I believe in a previous lesson we've taught you that you take your improper fraction and to turn it into a mixed number, you take the denominator and divide it into the numerator. How many 4s fit into 14? 4, 8, 12, and 4 would give me 16. So that's too many, so I know I have 3 wholes. Okay, 4 times 3 is 12. 14 minus 12 is 2. And then instead of having a remainder when we're talking about fractions, my remainder becomes my numerator, and my denominator is my 4. So I have 3 2/4, and then I know 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. And you can see that here. So Olivia has 3.5 boxes of games left. Okay, so let's go back to this part up here where I said there's another way to do this. I showed you this way, where you take the whole number in your mixed number and rewrite it as a fraction that represents one whole. In this case, because my denominator was 4, I wrote one whole as 4 fourths, and I did that 1, 2, 3, 4 times because my mixed number here was a 4. Okay, down here, my mixed number included this one whole, so I rewrote that one whole as 4 fourths. So the other way that I want to show you is the way that I learned, and it's taking this mixed number like this, and I'm going to show you a simple way to do it. What you do is you take the denominator and you multiply it by the whole number. So I'm going to draw this little arrow for you here, and we're going to multiply. Okay, I hope that looks like a multiplication symbol to you. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16. That's my first step. Then I'm going to take 16 and add 3. Okay, so 16 plus 3 is 19. And then my denominator is going to stay the same. Do you see how these ended up as the same improper fraction? It works the same way. Okay, if you don't believe me, watch this one. 1 1/4. Up here, we got 5 fourths. So following those same steps that I told you, you take the denominator, multiply it by the whole number. 4 times 1 is 4. And then you add that 4 plus 1 is 5. And keep the denominator the same. 5 fourths, which is the same thing we got up here. Okay, so this way is a little bit simpler. In my opinion, you just need to remember the steps. And those steps are take the denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and then add that to the numerator. So again, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Up here, I said 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. Okay? You get to decide whichever one of these methods makes the most sense to you. If you're still confused about this process, make sure that you reach out to your teacher and ask them. So, moving forward into the next example in your book, we're going to actually skip down to guided practice. Okay? So, looking at guided practice, I'm going to show you my method of turning mixed numbers into improper fractions again. So, the way that we're going to do that is we're going to multiply my denominator times my whole number. So 8 times 5 is 40. And then 40 plus 4 is 44. And I keep my denominator the same. So it's 8, 44 eighths. And I'm going to subtract 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And now I have 9 eighths. So now I need to do 44 minus 9, and that is 35. Keeping my denominator the same, I get 35 eighths. Now my job is to write it in simplest form as a mixed number. So we're going to do that next step again. We're going to take 8 and divide it into 35. How many eighths fit in 35? Well, if I skip count by 8, I go 8, 16, 24, 32. So 4, without going over, 35 minus 32 is 3. And then I take my remainder and make it my numerator and keep my denominator the same. So my answer here is 4 and 3/8. Okay, one more. Let's go ahead and do this one. Turning these numbers here, the mixed numbers, into improper fractions. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Keep the denominator the same, 19 thirds. With this one, same steps. Your denominator times your whole number. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. Denominator the same, 8 thirds. Now I get to subtract. 19 minus 8 is 11. Keep my denominator the same, 11 thirds, but this is an improper fraction, so we're going to go ahead and turn it into a mixed number by taking the denominator, dividing it into the numerator. 3 into 11, I know I can fit 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 11 minus 9 is 2. My remainder becomes my numerator, and my denominator is my 3. 3 and 2/3. Okay, I hope that this helped you. If you're still confused, again, please reach out to your teachers. This is super important. I am also happy to help you. So if you ever need to ask me, you can always email me, even if I'm not your teacher. I'm still willing to help you. So now your job is to complete the independent practice page. Remember to circle the questions you get stuck on and bring them to your next Zoom meeting with your teacher. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. I hope this helped you, and I'll talk to you again soon.